Hey guys, and welcome to Petrol Ped. Now then, it's always great when I bring a new brand and a new car to the channel. Well, behind me is a brand I have not had on the channel yet, a Cupra, and their very latest car, the Formentor. Very interesting, this car. Very, very interesting. Now then, before I get stuck into the review, a couple of bits of housekeeping. First off, in the UK today, we have this large yellow ball in the sky, and it's lovely and warm. So for the first time this year, I've got my shorts on, so massive apologies for the chicken legs. Next thing, I've had this car for just approaching a week, and one of the things I haven't done, which I would normally do when I'm going to do my filming, is I haven't washed it. And I haven't washed it on purpose, but more on that later. But yeah. Welcome to the Cupra Formentor VZ2. Now, first off, Cupra. Cupra have only been around as a standalone brand for just over 3 years. And one of the things I love most about this car is when you're driving it around and you park it up, people have absolutely no idea what it is. They look at this badge that looks like it's come from a Transformers movie and kind of stand there, and you can see the puzzled look on their faces. Are like, what's that? But yes, and the other thing is the Formentor is Cupra's first from the ground up brand new car. Other cars in their range have kind of come across from Seat, but this is a specific to Cupra model, the Formentor. What have we got underneath the bonnet? Well, basically a Golf R. In there is a 2-litre petrol engine producing 310 PS, 4-wheel drive, a 7-speed DSG gearbox. This thing is really rapid. Now, why didn't I wash it? Well, it's presented in the most stunning paintwork. This is actually just short of a £2,000 option. It's called Petrol Blue Matte, and it's the first car I've had on the channel with one of these satin matte finishes. And when it's clean, it looks absolutely breathtaking. I really like it, and I know there are some people that aren't massive fans of that. But I always wondered what a flat paint colour like that would be like to live with. And I found out annoying is the simple answer. First up, there's a fine layer of dust and ming on the car just from having it running round for a week. But then the other thing is when you wash the windscreen wiper wash fluid runs off here and runs down the side, and there's like these marks and stains down the side of the paintwork. And I'm sure you get that in a kind of gloss paint colour, but I just don't think it stands out so much. So much as I love this flat paint colour to look at when it's clean, I'm not so sure it would be for me to live with if this was my car. In terms of styling, I love the styling of this car. The creases and actually the flat paintwork really makes the body line and the body sculpture creases stand out. I think it looks excellent. The front of the car, really like that. I love little details, the bronzing of the Cupra name, all of the little details, the badge on the front there's little bronze bits on the wheels. Inside, when we look at the moment, there's bronzing all over the place. The front grille, it just looks sleek and mean and aggressive, and I like it a great deal. Now, you might not like this kind of compact SUV format, but believe me, when we get to drive this car in a little while, it really doesn't drive like that at all. But if you think the front's good, the back's really good. Now, firstly, I think the guys in the Cupra design department need a pay rise, because for me, they've nailed it with this. And the front's good, but the rear, it starts for me with these really defined creases on the rear hips, coming round to what I think is a really attractive light bar, and then just a really aggressive, purposeful rear end. Quad exhaust, always a bonus. Really nice, kind of almost like a spoiler on top of the rear screen. And just nice touches in this particular trim with the flat paintwork and the black badging. I love the Cupra logo with it's almost like a carbon fibre-esque material behind it. I'm not so sure about the fact that you've got flat paintwork leading into this gloss gunmetal paintwork, especially over the wheel arches down the side. But I'm guessing there's an element of nice contrast there. In terms of practicality and boot space, firstly, Sounds like a lorry backing up when you open the boot. 420 litres of boot space. The seats drop 70-30, so you can obviously extend the size of storage, but then the second car in as many weeks on the channel with a space saver wheel. Don't see many of them around anymore. Now what that does do is compromise any underfloor storage you might get in here. But what it does do is it means if you have a flat, you can get home without calling the AA. So yeah, it's not the biggest boot in the world, but I think it would do for, you know, for a small family. Certainly for us, that would be ample. Take the parcel shelf out, the pups would go in the back there, no problem at all. But as I always do in my tests, what is it like in the rear seats for the rear passengers? Could it be small and cramped, or could it be a surprise? I reckon half and half. It's not mega cramped in here. I'm not uncomfortable, seat as far back as it will come. But it's not surprised me in terms of having more legroom than I thought. Plenty of headroom. It's a nice place to sit. 3-zone climate control in this car as standard. And then these seats, Napa leather seats, they are beautiful to touch and really comfy to sit in. And when you sit in the back and you kind of look through at the driver's compartment, the back of the seats for the driver and passenger are really very special indeed. But yeah, not bad. Not bad at all. We got a little, a couple of cup holders on there. Boot hatch, can you get in there? Oh, hello. Ski hatch, so if you like your skiing, you'll be able to get your skis in there. Very cool. Front pretty good. Oh, I thought I'd left the child locks on for a minute then. No, I'm learning by my mistakes. So far, so good. Good looks on the outside, relatively practical boot, good in the back passengers, and then the main cockpit for the driver is set off for me by this steering wheel, flat bottom steering wheel, but it looks, well, it looks like something out of a supercar. You've got engine start stop there, and then you've got your drive mode button there with a Cupra logo on it, which looks really cool, and it just has a really nice feel to it. This seat is excellent as well. Let me just fire the car up. So 310 horsepower, 7-speed DSG box, 4-wheel drive, claim 0 to 60 figure of 4.9 seconds. This car's got to be a lot of money, right? But the car we're sat in, the VZ2, is just shy of £40,000. It's £39,870 in the UK, unless you opt for the matte paint that we got on this one, which another couple of £1,000 tips it over that magic £40,000 mark. So the car we're sat in on the road is 41,850 quid. But what you get for that is a lot of spec. The only option on this car is the paintwork. Everything else comes as standard. In terms of cabin and ergonomics, dominated by a very big touchscreen display that not only sticks up out the dashboard, you know how much I hate that, but everything's done through that. There aren't any real buttons in here at all, with the exception of traction control on off. There is a button, and then there's some steering wheel controls to steer to manage your adaptive cruise control on the left hand side, and then the display in front. And I must say the TFT screen in front has a number of different displays that you can choose from, and satellite navigation integrated into the middle, so that's absolutely brilliant. This main screen here, you can either use it natively as it is, and it's reasonably intuitive, or Apple CarPlay, and you can just use Apple CarPlay, and then there's a wireless charge mat just down here. You've got places to connect cables as well if you want to. The little gear changer is very similar to what you would find in an S3. I can't say as I'm a massive fan. I think that could have been a little bit more, you know, a bit more raw. But yeah, apart from that, not bad. Choice of materials, very good. There's like a lovely brushed aluminium just on the the part of the dash there, leather on the top there, Napa seats as standard. You can, I believe, on other models have a pan roof, which probably, because there's higher models than the VZ2, I think you could probably get away with that. It is quite dark in here, but all in all, it's a really, really good cabin, and it feels, you're sat really low. In fact, it's not often I get in a car, because this has memory seats in this car, where I put the seat all the way down, and then it was actually too low. I had to just bring it back up a little bit, because I felt almost like I was not able to see over the dash, which doesn't happen very often. So yeah, I love the interior of this car, but the proof is in the driving, right? What's the 310 PS motor like? What's the traction control like? What's the 7-speed DSG gearbox like? Can it do 0 to 60 in 4.9 seconds? All of these things are things we need to try and find out on a beautiful sunny day on some of my favourite driving roads. Oh, wow, what a beautiful day we have today. So, while we're out and about driving now, I must admit that throughout the entire time I've had this car, I've just had it in Cupra mode, which is basically everything turned up to the max. But if you have it in comfort setting, we've got adaptive suspension as standard in this car, and the ride quality is absolutely superb. And I can imagine that lots of people would just drive around in the comfort setting all the time. One of the things I do love about the car is if you set it into sport or into Cupra or into individual, the car stays there, so the next time you switch the car on, it goes back into the setting you had it the last time you were driving. That is excellent. But what's it like on a motorway or dual carriageway? Well, earlier on in the week, I needed to take a trip down to Dorset, and I spent quite a bit of time on a dual carriageway. So what's this thing like cruising on a dual carriageway? Well, a couple of things. There are some really nice touches in here. It's like an LED strip light that runs along the top of the door lining, and it's got your blind spot warning, so just a little bit of an orange glow appears on either door when a car comes up alongside you. Sounds like a really simple feature, but actually it's really, really effective. In terms of how it feels, one of the things I've noticed is the steering on a dual carriageway is actually really quite heavy and firm. And what that does is it means it's just really easy to kind of keep in lane. You don't have to make tiny adjustments. It just makes the car more relaxing to drive. I've currently got the adaptive cruise on, and that works really, really well. In terms of road noise and wind noise, very good. However, I have been driving this car around a lot in Cupra mode, and one of the things on a motorway, and you might just hear it, it is a bit drony on the motorway in Cupra mode. If I turn that off, that's now not in Cupra mode. It's significantly less drony. So I think if I owned one of these, I would probably, I mean, unlike my Minis where I just drive around in sport mode all the time, I'd probably drive this around in Cupra mode when I'm on the tight and twisties, and then put it into one of the more relaxing modes when I'm cruising on the motorway, because I think that background noise would do my head in a little bit. Don't get me wrong, it sounds really nice. I'm sure much of that is augmented in the cabin, but it is a little bit drony. Everything else in here though, the seats are very comfortable. Although that screen, as I mentioned before, is a little bit garish and a bit sticky uppy for me, it's nice and big. I've got wireless Apple CarPlay, I've got Waze running, and that just makes the car, for me on a long journey, really, really usable. It's a good old place, this. I like it a lot. Time to have some fun. So I love the little button on the steering wheel with a Cupra badge. Just keep on clicking that until the Cupra badge appears at the top of the screen, and I'm now in Cupra mode. Everything turned up to the max. One of the things that is instantly apparent is the piped in sound from the engine. You can hear it. That's not the engine, that is an artificial sound. Now, I don't mind it. It kind of adds to the theatre and the drama, but as quite a few of my mates who've reviewed this car in the past have said, it doesn't actually sound like a 4-cylinder inline engine. So they could have at least made it sound a bit more like what's under the bonnet. But I don't mind that. I mean, nowadays you can't actually make an engine and an exhaust sound any any good anyway, so you may as well artificially create it. Put that to one side though. As soon as you go into Cupra mode, everything kind of turns up to the max. The suspension, because it's got this dynamic suspension, does firm up, but it's not firmed up to the point of ridiculousness. It is much, much firmer than in comfort mode, but what that does is it just sits the car on the road brilliantly. And this car eats corners. It doesn't really drive like a compact SUV. It just drives like a hot hatch. It's absolutely brilliant. At the moment, I'm just in sport mode with the car, deciding to make the changes itself. On the whole, that's been pretty good. But it's basically a B-road destroyer, this car. I love this 300 horsepower, four-wheel drive battle that we've got going on cars like this, the Golf R, my mini JCW Clubman. It's that sweet spot of power, usable power, traction. They're just brilliant, brilliant things. And if anybody looks at one of these in a car park and goes, oh, what's that? Can that be any good? Well, believe me, when you get it on a decent road and you give it some Yahoo, it's brilliant. Well, it would be rude not to try out this 4.9 seconds to 60 time, full launch control. 3, 2, 1, go. Whoa! 60. Oh, I love that. Proper launch control. Like that. That's good. That's really good. So yeah, in sport mode, this DSG gearbox is really good. Let's go to the paddles and try those, and try them out on, well, it's got to be, isn't it? The Petrol bed hill climb. We'll just drop down into third, and here we go. Downshifts are pretty good. I didn't really need to downshift there, but oh my goodness me, this car's got some grip. And it's just a lot faster than you think it's going to be. And I had a feeling it was going to be pretty quick. There you go, yeah. Damn, this car's good. So what are my final impressions of the Cupra Formentor? Well, let's start on the outside. There's not a great deal I don't like on the outside in terms of styling. I guess if you're not a fan of compact SUVs, it's a non-starter, but I actually don't mind them. But I think of all of the compact SUVs out there, this is right up there for me. I don't like the paintwork. I think it looks incredible when it's clean, and as a show car or parked up, it's phenomenal. But to live with, I know it would do my head in, and as a YouTuber it's rubbish because you can't really stick your suction cup GoPros onto that paintwork and have any kind of confidence that it's not going to fall off. So I wouldn't opt for the flat matte paintwork, but that's not a criticism of the car, that's just a spec choice, and actually you'd save yourself a couple of grand in the process. I love the fact that nobody knows what this car is. I love the fact that you park it up and you'll come out to the car and there'll be people kind of rubbing their foreheads going, what's that? Or you'll drive past people and it gets looks because it's a new car and a new brand, and you know, car people will get it, but a lot of people just don't know what it is. I love that. On the inside, it's a beautifully spec'd thing. I love the steering wheel, the driving position. I am not a fan of the big screen. I'm not a fan of everything being touch screen. Even doing things like just changing the aircon settings is a bit of a faff and a bit of a palaver. It would be just nicer to have some proper buttons. I don't like the gear changey knob thing, but I said that in my S3 review, very, very similar. And in terms of storage and practicality, on the whole, it's not bad. So I am struggling to come up with things that I don't like about the car. I think it's a brilliant package. I think Cupra have done fantastically, and And as this is the first Cupra I've driven and the first one on the channel, I look forward to getting my hands on some more, because if this is where I start, wow, it's exciting. And the new all-electric looks absolutely stunning, so I'll be talking to the Cupra press team very, very soon about getting one of them on the channel, believe me. But anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed it. I'd love to know what you think of it. Put it in the comments below. What are your impressions of the Cupra Formentor? But for me, it's really good. I'll just stick it into sport mode because you've just got to, and then I wish it would make its own noise rather than piping that noise through the speakers, but hey ho, that's the way of the world, I'm afraid. But yeah, anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed that one. If you have done so, please give me a thumbs up. Comments below are always welcome. And if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Petrol for plenty more content to come. And I'll see you on the next film guys, but you take care. Drive safe.